Okay, so my goal today is to control this servo, if it'll focus, with my Arduino, and I'm gonna follow this guide I found on YouTube. So we're gonna see what happens. The first thing he does is just setting up the ground and the power. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, first things first, I'm just gonna connect the 5 volt here to positive so I can get power, and then ground to the negative side. And then I'll just connect those to the potentiometer and the motor. That's what this guy's gonna use. And I should have one, apparently, though I don't really know where it is, so I'm gonna have to look for that. Okay, I was able to find my potentiometer, but it's a little weirder than the one the other guy in the video uses, so I had to search it up. Over here's power, ground. This thing does not focus. Power, ground, and output over here. So that should be fine. I'll just plug it in on the breadboard somewhere. And then also I found a document camera, so that'll be easier. I don't have to hold this all the time. This is what I was recording with before.
Okay, I'm just gonna voice over this part because literally all I did is use the ground and power rails, connect those to the servo, and I connected those to the potentiometer, and then I connected the potentiometer output switch to the analog in 0 pin on the Arduino, and the servo went to the 9 pin on the Arduino, the control for the servo. That's it.
Dude, so I was trying to watch the tutorial. This thing's moving. It's probably because of the code I had on here previously. Though it was all with the lights, so I don't really know how my light controls were telling this servo to move. And then it stops for a while, and then it goes again. So I don't really know what's up with that. But next up I'll be coding.
So now what I'm doing here is at the top I'm including servo controls, and then I'm defining what I'm calling the servo as servo 1. I don't really know why we used 1 instead of just servo. And then we're defining the servo pin as pin 9 and the potentiometer pin is A0, which is what I used. And then in the setup, we're attaching servo 1 to the servo pin, basically just saying that is that. So now in the loop section, I'm just going to tell it to read the potentiometer's pin in analog signal, and then I'm going to define an angle as I'll just show a little demonstration for that.
Basically, when you spin this, it goes between a value of 0 voltage and 1023 when you get it all the way to the other side, and we want to map a 0 with being 0 degrees on the motor. And then 1023 is going to be the max the motor can go, which is 180 degrees. So we can get the full range of motion from this thing to that.
And then after that, I just need to tell the servo to write itself to the angle we defined from the map. Okay,
I unplugged this from earlier because I didn't want it trying to move past the max angle of the servo, because I bet it's still gonna start doing that spinning thing it was doing earlier. Maybe it won't, I don't know. But okay, I'm gonna go ahead and upload this code, and it's going. Okay, it has an error. The system can't find this file specified. I don't know what that means. I might need to have a servo H file or whatever to read the thing. And this is still slowly ticking, so I'm gonna try to figure out what my problem was. Okay, apparently the servo thing is already included, so I didn't have to worry about that. And the issue that was down here was just that I had plugged the Arduino into a different port than usual, so I had to just do the drop down and then re-upload the code. And when I did that, this spun straight to this direction, which I don't know what it is, but let's see what happens when I spin this. And I mean, that works pretty well. So that's probably 180 degrees, and then we can go all the way back down to 0, which is full half rotation. full half rotate. I don't know. I guess those words sort of work, but this seems to work. I think I'm gonna see if I can now create something of my own. So I like rewrote some code that may or may not work. I was like trying to like figure stuff out myself. I went to go plug in my Arduino, and just doesn't turn on, which isn't very promising. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so I unplugged everything from the Arduino and then plugged this in, and it turned on, so hopefully now I can place everything back where it was, and it should be good. Let me put ground in before I put the 5-volt in. Let's hope this doesn't kill it. Okay, and it does, so I gotta figure out what that's about. Okay, apparently the problem was that I had the wire routing through the button straight to ground, which will like short the circuit. I don't exactly know why that happens, but I mean, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, maybe I need to learn a little more about electricity before I start doing this type of stuff. But I have a 10,000 ohm resistor between that and the ground, so apparently this is supposed to work. So let's plug it in, and that does work. Oh, and this is still stuck on the other thing, so it's tweaking out. Let's see if my code actually works. Upload. Okay. There are a ton of errors. Let me. They expected oh, okay. They expected these colons, which I forgot to put. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, uploading. It says it's done uploading, and this went. Oh, I think I did it the wrong way, but okay, it's going every 2 seconds. I had to look up what a while command is. I was gonna do like if you press the button, but apparently you can do while the button is pressed. And I thought routing it to high would mean that it's when you press the button, but maybe it's when you don't press the button. Now let me see what happens if I press it. Okay, so apparently I managed to write a code where the button does absolutely nothing, and it just goes back and forth. So I'll be back. Okay, so I had to change this to like a if statement and not a while, and then I don't even know what else I really changed. I think that's mostly it. And then so now I just have all this. Why is my whole thing pink? I don't know. If I have this wired to a button, and it will, when I press it, it rotates back and forth, and then when I let go, it takes a second, but it stops. And I think it takes a second. Okay, so now it's just not stopping. It was stopping earlier. I don't really know what changed. Oh, see, now it stops. I don't know why it takes so long to stop, but it does stop. So, I mean, I did get what I wanted to get, basically. I press a button, it starts moving, and then when it stops, it stops. So I'd say that's pretty successful. Okay, I made my last revision for the day. First of all, I set it up so that when it starts, it writes the servo's position at 90 degrees, which I started it, and then it allowed me to put this on in this direction, so it can go 90 degrees that way and 90 degrees that way. So this is at its like midpoint right now. So it just auto sets that when you turn it on, which that's pretty cool. And then I set it so it does less extreme angles, between 60 and 120, and then I reduced the delay a lot because of that, to like 300. I think it's in milliseconds. And then I put an else thing down here, so if the button's not being pressed, it'll just return it to 90 degrees, which is this middle position. And the only issue with this is because of the way I coded it, apparently it takes a long time to like realize the button's not being pressed anymore. So it's kind of like dumb. But if I press this, it goes back and forth like that. And it kind of walks forwards. So it's kind of funny. Like it slowly, barely shifts. But then look, right at the end, it goes right back to its neutral position. So, I don't know. Decent project. I spent a lot of time on it, to be honest. I'm not sure how much, but I liked it. I guess I learned something. And yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next video.